Good morning. Woohoo. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. My name is Jay Tiefenbrunn and I'm very pleased to be your Director of Music Ministries. I'd like to invite you to shake with me this morning and sing Gathered Here, number 389 in the gray hymnal. Number 389, or you can leave the hymnal in the pew if you know it. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing Gathered Here. We're going to sing it all together for the first time, and then I think maybe we have enough bodies to have this section sing the first part, this section here sing the second part, this section sing the third part, and the choir will bring up the rear in the fourth part. Actually, choir, if some of you want to spread out, that would be awesome. Here we go, Gathered Here. All together. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the fight. Spirit drawn near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Our second song this morning is number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. Hymn number 299. Song this morning is number 347, Gather the Spirit. Hymn number 347. take a moment and greet your neighbors.
Good morning. You got your hands full this morning. Good morning. It's good to see you, Bethany. Hi. How are you, Brian? It's good to see you. Welcome. Welcome. Hi.
It's too soft.
Day breaks on our gratitude for family and friends, for the freedom to find our own truth, for the company of those who gather here, and the promises we offer one another. Let the light of day bring the grace of faith into our lives.
I'd like to invite you in the spirit of worship with these words. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a home. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome.
These
was singing that. Did you? Oh, in the yellow sweater. Oh,
Good morning. My name is Denise Couch, and I am your Assistant Minister for Congregational Engagement, and along with our lead minister, Gail Seavey, and one of our membership committee members, Jean Klein, I have the great honor of introducing you to those who have made the decision to join our congregation. Before our new members come forward, I'd like to point out to everyone else that we need your participation, and there is a new member covenant that you can find in the insert. It's on the insert to your order of service. You might want to get those out now. New members, would you please join us on the platform as I call your names? Adam Cottingham and Maria Cottingham. Silka Shada. Toby Thrower. Trey Ward. And Susie Wilcox. Come on up.
It is a joy to welcome you into our community of memory and hope. Each time we welcome a new member, we become something new. New members, will you walk together with us, sharing joys and responsibilities of membership?
Yes. Members of First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville, will you welcome these people into our congregation? Will you reach out to them in friendship, including them in our activities and fellowship? Will you be open to their unique gifts and perspectives? Will you extend a warm welcome to them, remembering that each of us was once a new member? Yes. So your strengths, talents, and commitment with yours. You are a part of us.
And we are a part of you. Becoming a member of this church is an important step. I'm not going to say first step, because some of you have already been becoming involved. I charge you new members to grow in your faith. More importantly, I charge you to find and share your special gifts with us. Ours is a shared ministry. Each of us has a crucial role to play. We need you. We need your energy. We need your ideas. We need your hearts. As you give generously of yourselves, we all become enriched.
And now we invite each of you to sign our membership book. This is Susie Wilcox. And you'll notice there are some notes on that insert if you want to know more. Yes. This is Trey Ward. This is Maria Cottingham, and standing behind her is Adam Cottingham, but the really charming part of this trio is Charlie. This is Toby Thrower. and Silka Shada. We are so pleased to welcome all of you to membership at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. Now we are celebrating, so of course we have cake in the social hall after the service. I hope you all will join us and meet our new members. And at this time, we will sing our children and young folks out to their religious education classes through this door. You can find the song inside the back cover of your gray hymnal.
My name is Richard Bird. I'm the chair of the Committee for the Larger Faith, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here in the sanctuary and those joining us online to worship this morning. In order to reach a wider community than those able to be physically present on Sunday morning, our services are live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Joys and concerns are not live streamed or recorded. Before I continue, let me remind you to silence your cell phones. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We deepen our relationships as we create a compassionate, welcoming community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors worshiping with us this morning. We ask that you wear the paper name tag because that helps us to recognize you as someone we'd like to get to know better later. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope you might find it here. Whether you are new to Unitarian Universalism or visiting from another UU congregation, we invite you to stop by the welcome table after the service to have any questions answered. People become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please talk to our assistant minister, Denise Couch. And following the service, we hope everyone will enjoy coffee and fellowship in the social area, where you will also find information about current opportunities for engagement and reflection. There are a number of announcements in the weekly bulletin, which I'll help you take home and read, and I have a few more. Our mid-year congregational meeting is today in the sanctuary after the second service. Child care is provided. Our agenda includes reports from the Endowment Trust, the Stewardship Committee, and the Ministerial Transition Team, as well as a financial update. And after a year of community conversations, the Identity Discernment Task Force is asking the congregation to select one of 3 resolutions to set our future course together. You can read the 3 draft resolutions on our website at thefun.org. The Committee for the Larger Faith has a table today in the social hall with information about various UU congregations and organizations and events, such as the Mountain Retreat and Learning Center in North Carolina, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, and General Assembly. If you took home a guest at your table box last month, you may return it to us there today. If you didn't bring your box there, bring your box today, but you still have one, feel free to bring it another Sunday and just look for me. Stop by the table today and find out what's going on in our larger faith. Then on February 3rd and March 31st, the Social Justice Committee is sponsoring conversations to kick off our efforts to renew our Welcoming Congregation certification. Please read about it in the February newsletter or on our website. And there's a correction in the calendar of our February newsletter. The Herb Fair is April 13th, not the 6th, so mark your calendars. And finally, the Beloved Community Committee has a table in the social hall also today for you to sign up for the 2-day Nashville Pledge program taking place on March 9th and 23rd. I'd like to introduce Sherry DiGiovanna.
Morning, my name is Sherry DiGiovanna and I'm a member of this church. I loved my first grade teacher. She played the piano and sang in school, which was awesome for me. I raved about her to my parents for months, but when they finally met her, they were surprised that I hadn't mentioned that she was a Black woman. Why would I mention it? Oh, there was no reason, they said. They were just surprised. It was my first inkling that it wasn't a bad thing, but it was a thing, and we never discussed the why. So I also learned that it's difficult to talk about racism. I'm a director of communication, and I used to avoid it. Why cause more attention? Why upset people? But thanks to the Nashville Pledge program, I now ask instead, what is the cost to society if I don't speak up about racism? And now, it was hard to keep this testimony down to an hour. Because this program both motivated and enabled me to speak up about it. This past Christmas, when one family member complained about affirmative action and another about players taking a knee and he hasn't watched a game since, I spoke up, knowing that to retreat from the discomfort of talking about racism is to be complacent in it. I'm not racist. I get it. I used to see the concept of racism like murder, that somebody had to commit it for it to happen. But it's not the case that only people who intend to do racial harm do racial harm. Sorry. Progressives like me, who think we already get it, are actually a huge part of the problem, according to Robin DiAngelo in White Fragility. After all, what action is required if I'm not racist? There's nothing that I need to do. It doesn't lead us to engage in self-awareness, ongoing education, and actual anti-racist practice. Luckily, our beloved community committee was a step ahead of me and helped me move from I'm not racist to I want to learn about it and act so that I can end it once and for all. The world needs us to act in meaningful ways. So I invite you into the same safe place to learn about the difficult work of ending racism that made me more self-aware and less afraid of making mistakes in trying to fight racism, where I learned the history of racism, misconceptions about the movement for Black lives and what white people can do in solidarity with it, and how to recognize and speak up against racially and multiculturally motivated microaggressions, and how to speak up early and often in all possible scenarios. As Martin Luther King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. If the pledge sounds impossible to do, know that the workshop provides tools and community support to do it. I'd like to think I would have stood up against slavery and marched with Martin Luther King and protected Jews from being rounded up by the Germans, but I don't know if I would have had the courage to do anything but silently oppose racism. And yet, one way to know is knowing what I'm doing about it now. Taking the pledge is how I move the arc towards justice, and I invite you into the same opportunity this March. Thanks.
I invite you now to take a deep breath and settle yourselves in the arms of this gathered community. And as you do that, think back over the hours, the days, the week that has led you here to this day, this moment with this community. And as you do so, there may be some profound joy or sorrow, some concern that you would like to make present here in the sanctuary. If you would like to do so, you are invited to come forward and place a stone in the bowl. Our lay minister, Gloria Ballard, will help you with that. If you would like your joy or concern spoken to the community, you can write it legibly, if you can, on one of those little yellow slips in the pew in front of you and bring it forward and hand it to me, and Gloria and I will do our best to verbalize your joy or concern. Please come now. Holding these joys and concerns, as well as those that lie as yet unspoken on our hearts, let us join our hearts in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, we gather from different paths, from many places, from many lives, for this special sacred hour together with each other, where we can celebrate our joys and be held as we grieve our sorrows. With gratitude for our community, for what it is, for what it might become, we ask in this moment for a renewal of that gratitude from day to day, from moment to moment, and for an ever-expanding awareness of how our work, our values, our mission in the world is so much needed. May we be ever faithful to that mission and ever willing to learn more and more what it means to be a people of faith together. Amen. Blessed be. At this time in our service, the ushers will bring the offering bowls around. If you are joining us online, or if you prefer mobile giving, you are invited to find instructions on our website if you're joining the streaming online at thefun.org. If you're in the sanctuary, you can find instructions for mobile device giving in your order of service. As always, your generosity is received with deep gratitude.
Our reading this morning comes from researcher, author, and speaker Brené Brown. In her book, Let Go of Who You Think You're, The Gifts of Imperfection, Let Go of Who You Think You're Supposed to Be and Embrace Who You Are. Brown writes, love belongs with belonging. One of the most surprising things that unfolded in my research is the pairing of certain terms. I can't separate the concepts of love and belonging because when people spoke of one, they always talked about the other. The same holds true for the concepts of joy and gratitude. When emotions or experiences are so tightly woven together in people's stories that they don't speak of one without the other, it's not an accidental entanglement. It's an intentional knot. Love belongs with belonging. Of this, I am actually certain. After collecting thousands of stories, I'm willing to call this a fact. A deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all women, men, and children. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we are meant to be. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. There are certainly other causes of illness, numbing, and hurt, but the absence of love and belonging will always lead to suffering. Here ends the reading.
Please rise in body or in spirit as you're so moved and join me in singing our middle hymn, number 318, We Would Be One. Hymn number 318, based on Finlandia.
Please join me today in a breath meditation. In a time of new beginnings, in a time of new awareness, in a time of opening our hearts to be known by others, let us still our bodies so that we are centered enough in ourselves to be open to being known and knowing. Holding our hearts open, I invite us to close our eyes if you are comfortable in doing so, and relax. I will help you count in successively longer breaths as we focus our intentions and our bodies. Just breathe. Inhale now to breathe in compassion for others with a 3-breath count. 1, 2, 3. Exhale now as you breathe away any loneliness. 1, 2, 3. Now breathe in healing with a 4-breath count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe away any pain with your exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now breathe in hope with a 5-breath count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe away any despair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now breathe in your positive intention with a 4-breath count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out something that you'd like to discard. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now breathe in your love for new members with a 3-breath count. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out any fear of not belonging because you have a home right here. 1, 2, 3. Allowing our breath to return to a regular pattern. May we know our profound strength. May we know our strong community love. May our love flow from us like raging waters. May it be so.
Such
In the year 2000, not long before obtaining my Master of Divinity degree from Vanderbilt, I had this stunning realization that my lifelong faith tradition of Catholicism was not going to ordain me or any other woman imminently, as the women's ordination conferences I had lately attended had led me to believe. It was not likely, I realized with a dull, painful ache in my heart, going to happen during my lifetime. Further, it was in one of these last semesters that I took an amazing class from my most revered professor, Reverend David Buttrick, that I came to examine fully what was it that I believed theologically. His course required us to examine a Sunday service of our faith tradition, line by line, belief statement by belief statement. We were also required to take a person outside of our faith tradition to one of our services, view it through their eyes, and obtain their honest impressions. If you have never taken a Presbyterian to a Good Friday service and watched them watch us kiss the feet of a full-size crucified Christ on a cross, you are missing out on some exciting results. As a result of this class, I had the startling realization that it wasn't just a few things with which I did not agree. It turns out I was not in alignment with the majority of the practiced theology of this tradition that had shaped me my whole life. Thus, I joyfully leapt across the stage to receive my diploma and enter into the world more educated and ready to minister, but a bit lost and unsure how to proceed. No church to call home. Fast forward to this time 2 years ago. After 3+ years of weekly attendance at church services here, as well as attending various programming, book reads, and teach-ins, and also volunteering for several things, I still found myself unsure of how things worked on the broader level of this faith tradition. I saw people in 2017 wearing t-shirts saying, "Vote for Susan," and I thought to myself, who is Susan? I heard Gail say from the pulpit that big changes were occurring and that we, as a broader faith tradition, we were having sort of a rocky time, but that good changes were coming to the UUA. And I wondered, despite her brief explanation, what the heck the UUA was. As a side note, I now understand why people brush quickly over the explanation of the UUA, or the Unitarian Universalist Association. It's not quite our governing body. Rather, the body that helps us to define our covenant and to live it faithfully. The UUA is a central organization for the Unitarian Universalist religious movement in the United States. They help us stay on track with living out our 7 principles at each of our 1,000+ member congregations throughout the USA. Living out a covenantal faith tradition while at a business meeting is a hard thing to describe until you see decision-making in action at General Assembly, also known as GA, with delegates from all of the congregations voting on everything from what we will together study as important topics for action, all the way to subtle but important language shifts in our bylaws, such as moving from he or she to a much more inclusive they. In April 2 years ago, I was feeling a little desperate for thorough explanations, so I made an appointment for the first time ever to meet with Reverend Gail Seavey just prior to becoming an official member a few weeks later, much as many of you have done today. Is there some sort of broader theology class about Unitarian Universalism? I asked hopefully. I'd really like to better understand this faith tradition from roots to current day. And while she generously referred me to some books, it just wasn't what I was seeking. After attending parochial school for 16 years with daily religion classes, and then 4 more years of divinity school, I was hankering for a hunk of pure political polity discussion. As a kinesthetic learner, I kept wondering if I could get some understanding of the dogma around here. In July of last year, the UUA hosted Braveheart classes began to be advertised in our newsletter. This nationwide online class fit the bill for that which I was seeking. My class instructor, Natalie Briscoe, is the co-lead for the southern region of the UUA. Along the way, I learned not only about the polity and dogma, we do have some dogma, even if we, the UU body, are the ones saying that the principles are incontrovertibly true for us, rather than some higher authority telling us that. But Natalie also gave time to each lesson to help explain the structure of the UUA and how it is transforming. I felt safe in this small group ministry space to admit that I had no idea what GA was, and why people were excited when there was something called a delegate. She described General Assembly as a cross between a week-long annual meeting, worship service, and conference and convention and reunion. It is a space where we, UUs nationwide, come together to covenant and make collective decisions about how to be faithfully UU for yet one more year. Sign me up. This sounded like Holiday Nirvana, a UU explanation in-depth wonderland. I began to ask questions around our church about the coming GA. I thought there might be some election where I'd have to vie for a spot as one of the delegates. I was very concerned to go to this particular one last year in Kansas City, as the budget was extra tight last year and as my in-laws live on the way there for convenient week-long free childcare. As a far future planner, I fretted for some time about obtaining one of the golden ticket spots to be a delegate. It turns out, as a member in good standing for more than 1 year, who was both interested in going and involved in the church, after talking with the committee head, I learned that was all I needed to go to be good to collect my golden ticket and head west. It was much easier than I thought. By the way, my fellow members of the Committee for a Larger Faith are now waving at you. Feel free to chat with them at church or look them up in the member directory to get more information about becoming a delegate anytime. We'll also be hosting a table in the social hall today with more larger faith information about many things. None of it requires you to sign up to do anything. It's just information for you. For me, being at GA was a bit like being a kid in a candy store on Christmas. So I've prepared for you a list of 10 things that I learned at or liked about General Assembly and why. Number 1, opportunity to get to know my fellow church members. Sitting together at GA for anything that occurred in the main hall, including services, ceremonies, business meetings, and lectures, was a fun way to get to know the other pilgrims. And it made it easy on this first-timer to be able to ask questions in real time of those who had gone before me. Number 2, the exhibit hall. Having all of the many, and there are so many, UU nonprofits and various offshoot agencies in one location made many mysteries dissolve. For example, I was 10 minutes into the UU Service Committee pitch when the light bulb box came on. Oh, you're the guest at the table box people. I got it. That's right. Number 3, attending the UU Women's Federation breakfast. Not only did this help me to know the depth of work our own minister has done regarding prevention of sexual misconduct in our churches, for which she has received a well-deserved award, it also helped me to know we have a women's federation. I'll be honest, as a woman, it's been an adjustment to going from being the recipient of heavy discrimination and being a minority in leadership in church in my former faith tradition, to being a member of a body that has already done much of this hard work of inclusion. In signing up, I kept wondering where all of the special scholarships to GA were for the women who were not listed among the minorities. Being at GA helped me to understand that UU women are deeply empowered here. There are no token women in power positions. Women are the power positions. Do you remember those Vote for Susan shirts? Our first elected female head, Susan Frederick Gray, gives powerful speeches as a nationwide leader. I heard them myself, and I felt fortified. Number 4, voting. Despite the reality that delegates need to vote on some humdrum items like bylaw changes, most of the voting we did at GA involved the ethical work of collective decision-making regarding what is most important to us, Unitarian Universalists, in our ever-changing world. This was powerful. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Voting at GA on our future. Number 5, que sera, sera. This was my surprising reaction of whatever will be, to UU megachurch worship style. When 2,800 UUs come together in one place, giant screens become necessary just to see what's happening. Cavernous convention center rooms can be transformed into meaningful gathering spaces. This seemingly dichotomous experience actually worked fine. Coupled with experiencing it for myself, as well as attending a program put on by All Souls UU Church of Tulsa, Oklahoma, about growing churches both bigger and more diverse, I was helped to be more open to whatever the future brings with the growth of our own congregation, though I hope it's not quite so big as GA. Que sera, sera. Number 6, even we, liberal UUs, have racist history. I gained a deeper understanding of the history of how white privilege has played out in our own history as UUs, and how relatively quickly we have learned and adapted so many things. I attended an excellent program called the Thomas Jefferson Ball 25 years later. The short version of this amazing story in our ongoing effort is that in our ongoing effort to dismantle even our own internalized white supremacy, is that all of the key players who were at GA 25 years ago were there at this GA to tell the story of how someone thought it would be a great idea to have a costume ball dressed like folks from Thomas Jefferson's era. And some black UU folks asked with some legitimate incredulity, yeah, how would we dress if we attended this ball? It was beautiful to see the black and white members of our larger faith together discuss how we as UUs have faithfully handled this conflict between then and now. The very best detail of the story came when one of the panelists shared that 25 years ago, during the ball, the hotel manager helpfully asked him if they should call the police on those protesters out there. And the reply was, please don't. Those protesters are us. We are civilly protesting our own convention. That is how we sometimes do things. 7, strength in numbers. It was powerful to meet in person the people in the UUA who head up our youth, who head up our southern region, who head up a whole country of people who share the same values as us. We are big. There are many resources and fellow UUs beyond just these church walls. In the early 2000s, as information about the Catholic leadership's sexual abuse scandals unfolded, I was discerning whether or not to remain in my former faith tradition. I asked a trusted friend, how could he remain when faced with such evidence to leave? He replied simply, how could so many people around the world be wrong about this faith? At the time, his response irked me. I wanted to give him a laundry list of all of the reasons that he should stand up for justice and choose differently. With some space and some life living, I see now that what he was telling me was that he wanted to belong. He wanted to know that there were people in great numbers who would affirm that he was on a good path, even if others were faltering. We have great numbers. I didn't really get how many until I saw just a sliver of our might gathered en masse. There is strength in our numbers. The numbers at GA gave me strength, which leads me to number 8, and this one requires some participation. For those of you who like to know what's coming, there will be 3 examples that we will do together, and it will be a little loud. So I'm going to ask you to show me what something looks like, and you're going to respond by saying, this is what that something looks like. Are you ready? Show me what community looks like. This is what community looks like. Show me what decency looks like. This is what decency looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Very good. I attended a program at GA to learn how to be civilly disobedient. I captured the songs and the chants and had instant use of them as the Westboro Baptist people came to protest us at GA. And then again, I had immediate use of the learned chants back at home a week later as good people gathered to say that what is happening to families at our southern border is not okay with us. Over and over again at GA, we were asked to be an ally, and when possible, to be an accomplice. In these trying times, civil disobedience will be needed again. If there's an interest, I am ready to share these good learnings through the songs and chants. If we all know them, we can be a powerful voice for liberation when we are needed again. We will be needed again. there is strength in numbers. Number 9, UUs are fun. As I was doing GA on a budget and staying 5 city blocks away from this convention center in a rented lower bunk bed rather than one of the hotels adjacent to the convention center, I asked my children to teach me how to use their foot-powered scooter the week before GA so that I might get more easily to and from the convention center. And then, upon realizing that the Kansas City Convention Center itself was as big as a mid-sized town, I began to scoot around inside too. It was really fun. In addition to getting smiles and bribes to loan my child's scooter for a while, it was a great conversation starter. I got to go to a rooftop party where discussions were lively and deep and broad and fun. I had theological conversations that made my skin tingle with excitement. I needed to know that UUs everywhere sometimes drink alcohol and have a sense of humor. The work ahead of us is too hard if we're not laughing together. And finally, number 10, trust. After departing a faith tradition because it would not recognize my gifts simply because I am a woman, I have needed a lot of time, information, and space to observe and participate in order to understand that this faith tradition is trustworthy. It is a tradition made up of fallible people who will make mistakes. I am fallible and make mistakes. I suspect you might be too. And yet, after time, information, and space to observe, I'm ready to say that collectively, we're good eggs. One of the programs I was most nervous and excited to attend at GA was called Considering and Preparing for Ordained UU Ministry. I sat in a room full of excited, hopeful, visionary, and inquiring people, and I was proud to be one of them. Access to this information so directly from a live human standing in front of me to whom I could ask my many questions was powerful. And 8 months later, with the support of our board and our minister, this month I have filed my paperwork to officially become an aspirant on the journey toward ordination in our faith tradition. Thank you for the opportunity to represent First UU Nashville at our nation's annual business meeting / worship service / convention / conference / reunion. I learned so many more things there than I have listed here, for which I'm grateful. I encourage you to try out being a delegate as well. It was my honor to represent. It is my honor to belong here with you. You belong here too, and you are a part of the larger faith that is big, and together we are powerful.
I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Open your hearts and open the turquoise hymnal to number 1014, Answering the Call of Love, a reminder of how we shift and change as a congregation. This song is now Answering the Call of Love by Reverend Jason Shelton. Let's sing together.
Truth in our hearts is our God.
Please join me in the chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of commitment, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
In this time of new beginnings, may we find ways to bring more joy and love into the world. May we be open to finding our place within the world and our faith tradition. May our lives be filled with gratitude, grace, and safety. And may all of us know that none of it has to be done by ourselves.